us in choir. You know, we always needed good male voices in choir. Just love to have you. So hope you'll join us in choir. And I had to turn him down because I just knew that, like, you know, being in that basketball program was kind of like being in the military, but not just. It'd be like if you were assigned to like special forces or something, and it's just like so intense and so focused. Like,
no time
with schedules and, you know, between performances and rehearsals and like practices and games, like I just could never exist in these two worlds simultaneously. Like it's this and like nothing else. So tragically, in hindsight, you know, like that scene repeated all 4 years. Like each year he would find me like in the first day or two of school and, hey Jeff, Mr. Manley, just went again. You know, once again. My senior year, it was like a joke. It was like, here we are again. You know.
Yeah. So
I tried. There he is. He speaks.
So okay. So there's, you know, you doing all the sports, and then was there piano in your house?
There was, and
I remember being. I mean, the story of us being at, I think it was my senior year.
Yeah.
And Deb Harmon, who was my best friend, and Mark, her brother, and then you.
Yeah.
We were somehow in, and I don't know how, when I think back.
I do, I remember.
We were watching quilts
We were guarding the quilts.
Temple. Why would they have 4 high school kids guarding quilts for a quilt show? I have no idea, but we were there overnight, and I remember you playing a bunch of songs, and like, you know, just...
Yeah.
So do you self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't play keyboard at all. Like, weirdly enough, it just, my brain does not, like, take to, or at least it hasn't, you know, didn't throughout my childhood. I tried, like, I took organ lessons for a while, and, you know, maybe it's just the method, you know, like, because everybody learns differently, and again, for me, my distractible brain and, like, sitting in a little room, cramped room with fluorescent lights and just sitting, you know, there was like an older woman who's just, you know, pointing out the notes on a page, and I'm just like, this is drudgery. Like, I just couldn't do it. And the same happened with guitar. I tried that for a while too. And what would happen is I would, you know, count the lines and spaces and, you know, count the frets and then figure out one note. And then, I mean, it would take me forever. And then figure out, by the time I had like 1 or 2 bars, then I would just recognize the song because the nature of being a beginner, right? You're playing like Mary Had a Little Lamb. I'm like, oh, it's Mary Had a Little Lamb. So then I would just by ear, like, pluck it out, and then go to my lesson and pretend like I was reading. And of course, it didn't take him long. He's like, you're not really reading this. I'm like, no.
Well, music is a very mathematical skill.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes that kind of talent. And I mean, I got a D in music theory, so.
See, weirdly enough, just in the last like 5 years, I finally cracked the code and got into it. It all started like when Suzanne was diagnosed. I had all this time, you know, and just staying home with her. And I was like, you know, I should just finally, because I feel like my whole life I've been jumping around all over the place here. That's the desultory nature of my brain. You know, I always had a guitar around, you know, and it would just sit in the corner of my room and just like challenge me, right? Because I just kind of always knew somewhere in my heart of hearts, it was like, because I would pick it up and I would mess around by ear, but it was like, you're going nowhere. You can't go anywhere except through me, right? Like, you're not going anywhere but through me. Like, at some point, you are going to have to square off and face me, like, for real. Like, you're going to have to really learn how to play me. And I feel like I just faked it for decades, you know, and I could just pick it up and learn, but then it's the worst way to play, because everything's just by rote and memory, and anytime I would play something, it's literally like choreography for my fingers. I'm just remembering where they go, and if anything happens in the middle and you lose a step, it's like, how do you recover? It's so hard, and then you're just the panic, and then you fall apart. You know, so even just knowing basic theory and just kind of knowing what key you're in and what the diatonic chords are and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I couldn't even said that sentence like 5 years ago, you know, but so finally with Suzanne, I was like, you know what, it's time. I just got to start learning the fretboard, and like, and just learning the fretboard, like, because I know how I work in, you know, now these days, internet and YouTube, and there's so much information out there, you know, and that's part of it. That goes back to what I was saying. It's like, back in the day, the only way to learn was to sit in a room with, you know, a book and a piece of paper, and I just information, and I'm a different person, right? Like, the sources would say, like, you don't have to know every note on the fretboard to start learning these things, but I knew, like, no, I do. Like, I can't go forward until it's like I'm very, like I'm a good navigator. Like, I always need to know, like, kind of where I am in orientation to things and where I'm going and how to get there. So I just knew that I can't overlay these other pieces of information onto this fretboard until I know where I'm going with it. It's too much to try to be doing both at the same time. I can't, because then I'm just counting where the note. No. I just need to know. So I just started spending hours a day just trying to learn where the notes are on the fretboard, you know. And it took me like a year or two. I mean, a year basic. I'm still working on it, you know, just to get it like where it's just super. It's just there, you know. Right. And it takes years and years and years. But what that did is just by learning the notes on the fretboard, it started to unlock these things for me. Where, like, all of a sudden I started having all these revelations. Like, oh, this is what they're talking. Like, oh my, why is it taking me 40 years to like learn? Like, once I learned like the circle, fourths, and fifths, it used to just look like this esoteric witch symbol, right? And now it's like, oh my God, it's like sacred geometry. Like how a fourth is just an inverted fifth, like right, like an ascending fourth. Like from the root to the fourth is, but you descend from the root, you descend a fifth interval to the fourth, and vice versa. Ascend from the root to the fifth, ascend from the octave down. It's so fourths and fifths are inverted, and then
I heard about this stuff.
Seconds, thirds, and sevenths or thirds and sixths, and then seconds and sevenths. They're all just inverted, right? And it's just once I started realizing these things, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing! And then I got like really stoked about music theory. To now where I'm one of those people that's like a music theory nerd, wow. But I'm still trying. I'm still at the beginning of it. Like I'm not. Yeah. I don't have it like the genius people I know. Like they just spit that stuff out like nothing. But trying to now link my ear with my knowledge and put that all together. But that I'll be working on that till my dying day. Yeah. Like that's like surfing like forever. It's
we'll
like
have to talk more about that because maybe there's hope for me. I want to move.
This is going to be a very difficult task for Suzanne to keep me on track, as you can tell.
Usually I'm all, no, I'm just joking. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, thank you.
Senior year, what are you thinking about? Like, what do you want to do with your life?
Oh my God.
What do you want to do with your life, Jeff?
That was, please tell me, senior year, like, exactly. Like, what am I going to do with my life? Because, at that point, my whole world, like, primary focus was basketball. Secondary focus was just academics, right? And I got good grades, and again, because my mom, her greatest magic trick as a parent was just, she had this way of setting the bar of expectations so high, right? But she just kind of did it implicitly in a way that we just kind of like accepted, like, okay, we just have to, sometimes it was explicit, like you will bring home A's, maybe B's. C's are not acceptable, And I'm like, but I'm kind of an average person. C's average. Nope, no excuses, just, So it was just expected. And kids rise to the level of expectation that you set for them, right? And that was what she managed to do. So I always got good grades, but I just I knew that nothing that I was studying was like calling to me, like, oh, this is my calling, I'm gonna do this. Like none of the typical options that you have like, I just can't see myself doing this, can't really see myself doing this. And there were some things that interested me, but when again, the way my brain works, I was like, I can never be focused enough to be a doctor. Like, are you kidding me?
Were there people in your life that were, we always have people in our lives that are like, think that they know what you should do and what path that you should take?
Yeah, no, but I mean,
nobody had opinions on
nobody was really had strong opinions that like pushed me into any of the typical things, right? I mean, my dad, of course, is, in his mind, I was going to go play, ball at IVCC and then go to a state school and then go to the NBA, right? And I'm just like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But I didn't know, I was lost. I was just like a ship lost at sea, just adrift. I didn't even want to go to college because I just felt like it'd be a waste of time because I'm like spinning my wheels. I don't even know what direction direction to go. But see, my mom, she always had that intuitive kind of understanding. Like she's like, no, he needs to just get out into the world and then just he'll find it, you know. And I think she always had music. I think she knew deep down that the music thing was just kind of lived in me.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was her that kind of pushed me to, you know, and we kind of butted heads for like that year, like senior year, you know, that time. And so begrudgingly, I sort of like applied to colleges, and I didn't really put my heart into it because my heart wasn't in it, you know. And so I thought, because all my friends were really smart, because the smartest thing I've done throughout my life is just surround myself with smart people, right? So I've always gravitated to smart people and people who are more talented than me and just more focused, more, you know, disciplined. So and then I would just absorb their influence and then struggle to keep up, which has always like propelled me way further along than I would ever have gotten on my own, left to my own devices, right? So all my friends were smart, and they were going to, you know, U of I and applying to. So I just figured out I'd just go to U of I like all my smart friends, and I applied there, and I got their letter back, and it was like, you know, we think you'd be more suited for our satellite school, the UIC in Chicago, and I went and visited, and at that time it was just like way too urban for me. I'm just like, oh, I can't deal with this. So, and I was like dragging my feet, so deadlines were passing left and right, and pretty soon Northern was the only one left that was still accepting submissions, and so I got that one in, and sure enough, and I went and visited, and it was like a cold January gray day. I was like, oh God, no, never here. And that was the one place that accepted me. I'm like, okay, I guess Northern it is. But it turned out to be a godsend. But all that to say, bring it back. My mom drove me up there, first day of Northern, you know, move-in day. She goes to the dorm, helps me load some stuff into my dorm room, and just before she gets in the car to drive off and go back home, she's like, you know, the music building is like all the way on the other side of campus, straight down Lucinda Avenue. I suggest you take a walk down there, just go in, find some people, you know, tug on some shirt sleeves, you know, ask some questions, get involved, you know, in that kind of stern, loving way that mothers do. And I was like, okay, you know, and she left. And then I did exactly that, like the next day. And classes hadn't started yet. It was still like move-in week. Right. I didn't start officially. So I walked in the music building, it was empty.
And I remember seeing you in the hall.
Do you really? I mean, later, not that day, but at some point.
Later on.
Okay.
It's like, hey, what's he?
Yeah. But yeah, I walked in there, and it was like, I probably walked around for 10 minutes. I felt like I shouldn't be in there. It was like nobody was there. I went, searched one whole floor, went to the next floor. Hello, anybody here? Sounded like this in that hallway. And finally, like some guy comes out of an office. I'm like, oh, I ran down. Excuse me. I'm sure he was probably like a TA or something. And I just told him, like, hey, look, I'm not a music major, but I just, you know, I like to sing, and I don't really know music, but you know, I want to get better. Is there anything for someone like me that I could get involved with as a non-major? He's like, yeah, you know, just go all university choir. That'd probably be the best bet. You know, go down to room such and such, and there's a sign-up sheet for auditions on the door, and sign up for an audition time. And you know, I did that. Went back for that audition, and I think it was Mona Wiss was the director, and there was a piano player and somebody else with him. I remember they handed me sheet music, and I just looked at it, and I just was like, yeah, this might as well be in Mandarin. I just can't do anything with it. But she was so lovely. She's like, you know, just look at how the notes go on the staff, you know, how they rise and fall, and just, you know, make your best guess. Just try. And so I'm like, okay, I was terrified again. But, you know, they were able to glean enough that I had basic musicality, and, you know, just, in hindsight, I'm sure like, oh yeah, there's probably a lot you can deduce just by the notes you're guessing. Even if they're not the right notes, maybe they're in the chord, you know, they're diatonic notes. And so I got in, and then for the first year, I just kind of like hid in, you know, because I felt super self-conscious and intimidated, and I just like listened hard to the person next to me, you know, I was in the tenor section. And
it would have helped if you would have been in Mr. M's choir.
Well, I said that last night. I was just like, you know, like poor Mr. M, because then I did audition for the music program, and Mr. M helped me. He was like, you know, helped me prepare an audition, you know, really extended himself. And of course, it didn't pan out. I said, I'm sure he was thinking, well, if you would have joined choir, you know. But you know, the second year, where things took off for me was the second year of Vaughan University Choir. At the beginning of the semester, Mona's handing out the music. She's like, okay, we're gonna do this. And reminds me of the baseball thing. It's like, okay, pass this back. She's like, oh, we're gonna do this. It's a Swahili spiritual. It's in Swahili. It's really cool. And she's like, this Swahili piece has an a cappella solo at the beginning, at the top of it. And she's like, and because it's in Swahili, I'm going to put a recording of it on reserve in the library. So if you need help with the pronunciation, you can go check it out, listen. And as soon as she said that, I was like, ooh, nice, something I can listen to. I don't have to like read the music, right? So as soon as next time I had a chance, went to the library, checked it out. I sat there with the headphones. You go to those little listening rooms, headphones, and I like turned it on. I listened, and I heard that solo at the beginning. I was like, vyote vya Mungu wetu na mfalme wetu. Vyote vya Mungu wetu. Right? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing this solo. I was like, that's mine, right? And so I just learned it right there on the spot. Phonetically, just like Mom, right? Just singing songs, and I just pick them up phonetically. So fast forward a few weeks, because we've been working on other pieces, and then finally, mid-semester, she's like, yeah, you know what? Let's take a look at that Swahili tune, right? There was like rustle of music, and it was pulling it out, and while everybody's getting their music, she's like, I know I'm gonna audition for that solo at the top eventually, but just for today. Doesn't count against you. Anybody feeling brave want to just like take a stab at it, And so again, I've just been keeping a low profile. I was growing my hair out, so I was just like hiding behind my hair. So like this mop in the tenor section, I'm just like, and I don't even think she knew who I was. Just like looking at her roster, like, oh, Jeff, oh, okay, and just resettled. Whenever you're ready, and then I did.
And then you did just
what I just did, right? And then choir joins in, and we finish the tune, and she's like, Jeff, that was interesting. Have you sung this before? I was like, no, I just listened to it on reserve in the library. Suffice to say, I got that audition, and then that put me on her map.
Yeah.
Right? Like now, suddenly she took notes. She's like, oh, wow, this little blonde-haired kid seems to like to sing. So she's like, marry her. And so then she approached me after rehearsal one day, and she's like, you need to be in my vocal jazz group. I was like, oh, vocal jazz? No. I can't do jazz. Jazz is like real music for real musicians. Like, I do not do jazz. And she's like, no, you don't understand. You need to be in my vocal jazz group. And I'm like, she's like, come to auditions, they're Tuesday or whatever at this time. And I'm like, oh, I'll think about it. Come to auditions, And Tuesday came, and I remember I'd forgotten all about it. I was out jogging, a beautiful day, and in the mid-jog, I just really like, look at the times, like that thing, that audition, that's like now. Like if I were gonna go, I just need to race back to my dorm room and get around all sweaty. I just remember standing there for a second and just going like, am I really gonna do jazz? I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. No, I'm not going to this. No. And I didn't, and I just continued about my run. And the next time I saw her, it's like she pushed me, like, normally she's like so sweet, and like she's very stern, She took me back.
Tiny and
very
afraid of her.
And she like kind of came up to me, she's like, where were you on Tuesday? I was like, I'm in trouble. And I'm like, oh, like I said, I can't. And she just cut me off. She's like, look, technically, I'm not supposed to let anybody into the process once the auditions have officially passed. But come to the first rehearsal, it's Thursday, and just sit in and listen and observe. And if you still don't want to do it, then I won't bother you again. But you owe me, come to the, okay. So I go, and I like sit in, and like, first of all, there's this kid playing piano. He's like he's a freshman, I'm now a sophomore. He's just this amazing piano player. Eric Levy, do you remember Eric Levy? And they start singing, it's all these cool tight harmonies, and so afterwards she comes up to me and she's like, so what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And she's like, so, are you gonna do it? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna, and she's like, they'll help you, you have a good ear, you'll figure it out, you'll learn. I'm just like, okay, all right, And so that's how I joined, and then that is how ultimately, like, I ended up, two important things came from that. A, me and that piano player, Eric Levy, because after that rehearsal, he sits there and then he's playing all this jazz stuff. And then he goes into, like, starts playing sticks,
Yeah.
Like, right? He's like playing these tunes out of the record. I'm like, oh, I know that tune. And I like, join in. And then he's like, oh, you know this tune? And he plays something else.
I was always intimidated by those guys in the jazz.
Into what?
In the jazz, like, band and like, because I was always doing things by ear.
Yeah.
And they were like true musicians.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they're just geniuses.
Amazing.
I would say like musician and magician are very similar words for a reason, But so we just kind of bonded over like playing these like pop ballads, and he's like, "Oh man, you sound good." He's like, I got some stuff I've written, kind of in this vein. I wanted to record it. He's like, "Why don't you come to my house over Christmas break and just stay with me? Stay with us. My family. We'll just record." And so we did that over Christmas break, and then he just kind of took me under his wing, and he would make mixtapes with just full of just different jazz genres, across the ages, classic jazz, like Weather Report, modern jazz, and he would just give it to me and be like, "I just wanted to listen to this incessantly, until I give you further notice." And I would. And I'd go back to him with questions and be like, "How do I even make sense of this?" And he would explain, like, listen to the head, right? Like the melody they play at the top is like when they go into solo sections, they're just playing over the same, so just hear the melody going in your head. And I was like, "Oh my God," it all made sense. It's like, listen to the bass. And so he kind of taught me how to listen to jazz, and then he would, because his dad was a professional musician, where he got it from, and so he was well connected in the Chicago jazz world, and he was he was my first Jewish friend, and like when I stayed with him for that week, they took me to all their Jewish holidays, like literally like just took this blonde Aryan looking kid to like Passover or Hanukkah, and just like embraced me like I was family. It was amazing. And but he looked like he was 30 when he was 19. He just had this big black beard, and so he would just go downtown to the jazz clubs, open sessions at 19, and they all knew him because his dad, and they would just let him in underage, and then the piano player would just like, "Oh, Eric's here, man, come on up," and then the piano player would just let Eric sit down, and Eric would just play out the night with the band, So Eric started dragging me along, and then I would get up with that jazz band, again, terrified, and start calling these jazz tunes and taking scat solos, but that's kind of how I just broke into that whole world. And then
but you didn't graduate with a music degree.
I don't remember. Did he?
No, you didn't.
Oh, me?
Talking about you.
No. Oh, actually, no. I was never a music major ever.
Yeah.
No. In fact, I was undecided for as long as like my guidance counselor called me into her office at one point, sat me down. She's like, "Jeff, you have two options. You either have to declare a major, or you have to take a semester off because you have no classes left to take. You have taken every elective that this college offers." That's how undecided and searching I was, right? Because like I'm still, even though this music stuff is happening, I'm still not really thinking that's a viable career necessarily. I went into college like, what am I doing here? I don't know. So I was just, but in a way, that's what college is great for, right? You take all these electives, to like learn about the world, art history classes and sociology classes and world religions classes, and like it just exposes you, especially if you come from a town like Ottawa, Illinois, right? Yeah. And you're meeting people from different walks of life and places in the world, and so in a way, it was a fantastic, like well-rounded thing. I remember I got a letter from the philosophy department inviting me to become a philosophy major based on my performance in the philosophy 101 class. So I was thinking maybe that, but then everybody was telling me at that time, like, "Oh, just, get an English degree." I decided on English, and everybody's like, "Just get your teaching degree, and then just, teach, and you can do your little music thing on the summer times." And, in the absence of any better ideas, I was like, I guess that stands to reason. So I started doing that. And I went to the first class of my teaching stuff. And this instructor is one of those big hall lecture halls, right? And even me, I just go sit in the front, there are a few desks in the front. I sat in one of the desks, like right up front. And I'm like hanging on every word. And he starts his lecture. And in hindsight, I think he probably does this on purpose. Like, I bet he starts every semester this way, every new class. It's like, so, you want to be teachers? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my story. It's like, when I was an undergrad, I was in science, and my big dream in life was to graduate, go into research, and discover the next big thing, the next thing that would change the world. And science, like, that's the brass ring. That's what everybody wants to do. It's the dream. It's like, but I had some student loans to pay back and whatnot, so I took this teaching job and thought, I'll do this for a year or two, pay down my loans. And, well, 35 years later, I realized it's not a bad way to whittle away a life. And at that moment, I kind of sank back in my chair, and that literally is verbatim, every word, exactly what he said. And then his voice turned into the Peanuts game. It was like, wah, 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 wah. And the whole rest of the class were just like, whittle away a life.
So teaching wasn't for you.
Whittle away a life. Whittle away a life. That was the whole rest of the class. And I left, and I went home, and I called my mom immediately. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I totally expected her to do what my mom always did, and be like, oh, you're just having a moment, and you just buck up and get back in there, and things are gonna be fine. And I would be like, okay, right? And for the first time, she was like, you know, you're at this point in life where I can't guide you on this one. Like, you got to figure this one out on your own. And I was like, oh my God, who are you? What have you done with my mom? Like, and so I just remember going back home. At that point, I was living off campus in a tiny little apartment above Vezain Avenue, and sitting there for hours, just racking my brain what to do. And I finally came to the conclusion, I was like, it wouldn't be fair to myself, and it wouldn't be fair to any prospective students I would have to teach, and if my heart wasn't in it. If I still had this thing, this like lingering thing in my brain, like, what if, you know? Because I knew that I'd been the beneficiary of people like Roger Am, people like Sue Williamson, people like Gary Reardon, people who were like amazing teachers who I gained so much from, you know, Bill Myers, like, so, you know, Harry Adrian, I just lived, you know, Charlene Groby, like, you know, Mrs. Oscarmeyer, Mrs. Funk, my sister, you know, so many teachers. I had so many good teachers. And, you know, I was like, I respect it too much to do it if I'm not 100% in it. So I picked up the phone, and, you know, they had those big manuals, like back in the day, you'd have to go find your class, and it'd be a long code, and you punch the code in. I remember punching in the code, and then, like, it's like, to drop this class, press 1, right? And, like, and then it was like, you know, I remember my finger like hovering over the button on the phone, and it was just like, am I really gonna do this? And I was kind of like, 1, 2, 3, and then I thought that would be it, and they'd be like, you have elected to drop to confirm, and I was like, so I had to do it again, and I was like, okay, this is really it, and I was like, oh, you have dropped, and then I went through my whole teaching schedule and dropped all those classes, and I remember hanging up the phone and being like, what have I done, you know? But in a weird sort of way, I was also, again, I was like terrified but kind of exhilarated, because like now I've just leapt, and now I'm waiting for the net to appear. And then not long after is when I was doing a show with Northern Lights, with the vocal jazz band, vocal jazz group in Elmhurst, and just so happened that this band leader, who one of their veteran singers had retired, they were looking to replace him. And it was this guy, Bill Pollock, who was a band leader in Chicago, and his wife, Lisa, was a singer in the band. And Lisa had seen in the paper that this concert was happening, and they lived in Elmhurst, just down the street from the college. And she's like, you know what, I'm gonna run down to the college and just check out this show, and, you know, just scout out the singers and see if there's, because I'm like, maybe we get some, you know, some young, fresh blood in the band. And so she came to the show, and then later told me, like, there was just something about you. Like, I don't know, but they tracked me down at Northern, and I got this call, and I was, I think I was an RA at that time, and it was finals week, and it's like, phone rings, like, hi, this is Bill Pollock, I'm a band leader in Chicago, and looking for a sub for, you know, a gig this weekend, and I was like, oh man, this is the worst week ever. Like, I have finals, and I have 50 students I have to check out. Like, I would have zero time to shed any music, and I just told him, I was like, look, I can't read music. I couldn't just come onto your bandstand and just read things down. Like, I would need to memorize your entire set. And I don't have time to do that this week. And so I said, well, I appreciate your honesty, and I might be looking for a more permanent replacement down the road. Can I get your information where you're going to be this summer? And so I gave him my home, parents' home phone, and I remember hanging up the phone and thinking like, oh my God, I just blew it. Like that was a huge opportunity. That guy's never going to call me again. Like I just admitted to him that, like I'm inadequate. And I'm like, I should have done it if it killed me. Like if I had to stay up and get no sleep for 4 days, I should have just said yes, And I went home and I eventually just kind of accepted, and the summer wore on and it was about time to go back to school. I was gonna go back as an RA again. It's August. Phone rings, my mom answers, back in the day, landlines, She's like, oh yeah, he's like, Jeff, some guy for you, Get on the phone and this guy starts talking. I'm like, who is this? Like in my mind, I'm like, who is this guy? And then I was like, oh my God, it's the guy. He's actually calling me back, right? He's like, yeah, I'm still looking for a permanent replacement. Would you want to come up to the house and audition? I'm like, yeah, yes. So I did, and I drove up to Elmhurst, and we sat at the piano, and I was like super nervous again, thinking it's gonna be some real official thing. He was so chill, he just sat at the piano, and it was like me and Eric again. He's like, so what do you know? I remember he asked me, he's like, so what do you know? And I was so nervous, and like in the face of like infinite options, right? You get paralysis, like choice paralysis. I'm like, and to the point, he's like, oh, well, do you know this? Because I'm thinking that like I gotta impress him with like something sophisticated and jazz or something. And then he just plays like like Van Morrison. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I know that. So I just sing, and we go through like a verse and a chorus. And he's like, do you know this? I'm like, play some Beatles. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I sing that, and we just do this, just pop, just fun stuff, for like 20 minutes, and he's just kind of verse, chorus, this, and finally he just stops, shuts the piano, and he's like, I think you sound great. I'd love to have you in the band. If you can commit to the dates, you just have to be responsible, get yourself to the gigs. I know you're still a college student, but if you can commit. And I'm just like, really? And I was so naive and green. I was like, well, I mean, I don't mean to sound expedient, but like I'm an RA, and that's a pretty good gig. I got free room and board, and like, what does this pay? And he's like, well, he kind of did some napkin math. He's like, I just pay per gig, but I'll pay you this much per gig, and we usually do about this many gigs a year. And then I did the math. I was like, oh my God, yes, I will do that. So that's how I started working with Bill Pollock.
Yeah.
I was still in college.
How long were you with him?
Like 10 years almost. So like my last year of college, I was kind of going to college, but on weekends, like driving to Chicago and then doing these gigs, and kind of living this double life. And then when I graduated, it just made sense to move to Chicago, and then I just, and then you're just in it, right? Then you're just kind of, and I was like meeting people on the bandstand, because people would sub in. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, you're Tom Hipskind. Like, you're the drummer from the top band at NIU, who I used to sit in the front row and just be like, this guy is a rock.
Wasn't he?
Remember Tom, drummer from the
drummer, and didn't he go on to play for Hamilton for the orchestra?
I wouldn't be surprised.
In Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was like literally all rock. He was just a music god. Like I would sit in the front row and be like, I mean, the whole band was amazing, but I was like, this drummer, oh my, like this drummer's amazing. And like I remember me running into him like somewhere on it, like he subbed in on a gig, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, you're Tom Hipskind from, and he couldn't have been sweeter. Just like embraced me and like, yeah. And then suddenly like we're colleagues, and it's just,
that's awesome.
and then you're just kind of learning on the job. It's just experience.
Okay, Jeff. We're gonna skip. I'm gonna move you along now.
Yes.
Sorry.
Can you tell I'm gregarious?
No,
long-winded?
Unwieldy. No, it's all great. Oh my gosh. Like I said, you have to write a book. This is all good stuff. And I know everybody kind of probably wants to know, if they don't already, just kind of how you got into the Lieutenant Dan Band.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's simply just a continuation of exactly where I just was, because that band, Bill's band, the guitar player was this guy, Ernie Denov, and he was friends with this guy, Kimo Williams, and they were in a band, a different band together. Kimo, this African-American guy, he did a Jimi Hendrix kind of tribute thing. He kind of sounded like Jimi in his vocals. And Ernie like, because Ernie was a huge Hendrix fan, like he knew all the Hendrix stuff, so it was not traditional, but like Ernie played guitar and Kimo sang, played bass, and they had like a power trio. But Kimo wore many hats, and he taught, and he was also, he did theater stuff, and he musical directed for a play at Steppenwolf Theater. I think it was Streetcar in Vezain. And Gary Sinise was Stanley Kowalski, right, playing the lead. And at some point, somehow Kimo had found out that Gary was a musician. I'd started out as a kid, like as a musician in high school, had a high school rock band, which is actually how Gary got into acting, funnily enough. It was like him and all his buddies had a high school rock band, and they were just hanging out, like looking grungy in the hallway, right? And the theater director, walked down the hallway and saw them hanging out, and she's like, you guys would make good gang members. They look grungy. She's like, I'm doing a production of West Side Story. I need gang members. Why don't you guys come down? Audition, overzealous. And they went down, they saw like cute girls going, and they're like, all right, And so Gary said he goes in and like, didn't really know what he was doing, but like went off script and just started hamming it up, and they're like, this guy's great. And so they gave him like a real role, and that was how he got into acting. But he was a musician. He was like in this, and so Kimo somehow found that out and approached him and was like, yeah, I hear you're a musician. Like, why don't we get together and jam? And like, Gary's like, I haven't played bass in 20 years. And he's like, oh yeah. And Kimo like goaded him. He's like, yeah, I knew you were afraid. I knew you, if you're a real musician, you'd. So finally Gary's like, all right, fine. So they get together, and Gary has so much fun. He's like, you know what? Let's do this again, but get some other people together. Let's get a little rhythm section together and just jam. When I'm in town again, we'll do this, but with the whole rhythm section. So Kimo then, of course, gets together some people. So naturally, the guitar player he asks is Ernie, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing with Gary Sinise, And so Ernie gets, and they start just when Gary's in town, like he'd be in town for a play, call Kimo. It's like, yeah, let's get together. So they would just get in Kimo's basement and just order pizza and get some beer and just for fun, just jam these tunes. And I remember Ernie telling me about it. It's like, Ernie's got this very distinct way of talking and delivery. It's like this kind of old stoner. He's like, yeah, man, Kimo met Gary Sinise, and it's so weird, man. Like, we're just jamming with Gary Sinise in Kimo's basement, and I don't know, I think we might do some gigs or something, And then that evolved, So Gary, 2000, and like the 9/11 happens, right? And then Gary goes on a USO tour, one of the big first USO tours after 9/11 to Iraq. It was a huge tour. So there were bands and actors and Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and the whole deal. And he was watching how the bands would interact with these military crowds, and just how much they seem to just lose themselves in these musical performances. But as an actor, you're kind of hamstrung. Like, what do? You shake hands, sign autographs, And Gary's like, man, I want to do what they're doing. I want to play music and boost morale. And so he's like, well, I'm jamming with these guys back home. Maybe they'll let me take them with me, and we can play some music. So he asked the USO, he's like, do you mind if I bring my buddies and we play some music on these tours? And they're like, everybody's suspect of an actor with a band, right? So they're like, I guess we can try it, And so they do a couple trial gigs, I think, in the area, like the Great Lakes, and I guess they went well enough that they started doing sporadic shows at bases, and I remember Ernie telling me about that. He said, yeah, man, we're starting to do these shows, military bases and stuff, and man, I'd love to get you in the band. If we ever need a singer, for real, I'm totally gonna try to get you in. And sure enough, 2 years later, or a year and a half later, I had forgotten all about it. Just something he mentioned on a break one time, and my phone rings, and it's this woman. She's like, yeah, I'm so-and-so, I work with Gary Sinise, and he's got his Lieutenant Dan band, and they're looking for a singer, and we want to audition you. And I was like, oh, this is set in my mind. It's the thing Ernie's talking about. I'm like, wow. And so they had me go to a rehearsal studio in Chicago, and they put me on tape. Somebody was there and filmed me singing some songs, sent it to Gary out in LA. Based on that, he was like, all right, we'll give him a trial gig. And so their next show is at Steppenwolf for the Steppenwolf Gala, right? Steppenwolf Theater Gala. So I learned their set and then just went into that show. And funnily enough, I was taking acting classes at the time because of the whole Blue Man thing had just been happening at that time. And that kind of veered me into acting classes in Chicago. So I'm thinking, okay, Gary Sinise, like actor's an actor, I'm equipped now, right? So I'm gonna be on stage and I'm just gonna really like lock in with Gary. We're just gonna have this great interaction. And that's how it was playing out in my mind. Like, and the show comes and I get on stage and I'm like, I kind of look to Gary and Gary's just like, and I'm just like, come on, and he just, like nothing. Like he's just kind of hanging back and just like being a bass player, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess I'm just gonna own this. It's just my show, And so just, do what I do, and I just poured myself in. End of the show, backstage, he comes up, he's like, welcome to the band.
Oh my God. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he was like, we're leaving in a month. We're going to tour Europe and then do the National Memorial Day concert for 200,000 people. So get ready.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Wow, how organic was that?
I mean, truly, it's one of those things where I just think back to Itsy Bitsy Spider, and it's just like it's a dominoes sequence that goes all the way. You know what I mean? It's just like, and to this day, when I walk out on stage, we end every show, Gary talks to the audience. And then at the end, he's like, gets everybody to stand up. He's like, let's all sing this one together. And then he steps away and I step up to the mic. And every time I step up to the mic and there's like light in my face and I can see the first row crowd down here, like I'm in McKinley School, gymnasium, cross legs and corduroy. And it is the exact same feeling. And there's just like an unbroken through line, like all the way through to that. It's just weird. It's weird and magical.
So, okay, so you're singing in front of all these troops. And I'm sure, and that's, I'm sure you have a lot of stories just about how impactful that was for them or is for them. Do you have a story that stands out?
Well, I mean, I think the thing for me, because, in the beginning, it's funny, all of us, all the musicians, including the guys that were just jamming with Gary initially, and once we started kind of doing it officially, we were like, well, this is cool, but I give it about 2 years. Maybe 3 tops, before Gary gets busy and moves on to other things, But, you're kind of just doing your thing and you don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's like we're just a cover band. Like, how big of a difference is it making? We go on stage and do some cover shows and cover songs. But there was a point early on in the band, we had just kind of a simple makeshift website, and our keyboard player kind of managed it. And on there was a place where you could just leave messages, And our keyboard player, at some point, I remember he emailed all of us, like a group email. He was like, I just thought everybody should see this. This came from the website. It was a message somebody left. And it was this message from a troop. Oh my gosh, feeling emotional already. And he was just like, he's deployed somewhere and dealing with all of the challenges that, combat troops deal with, and, marital stuff and the separation and trauma, and, he was just at his lowest point. And, he just said, like, look, I was at my lowest point and I had decided that was it. I was done. I was going to end it. And I just happened to log on. I had some, just menial task to do online. And the DoD has its own website, like network. It's just only, military people can access. And, like any internet network, there's a landing page. And on that landing page, I think they were streaming some show that we were doing. And it was just happened to be streaming on, like, so when the page popped up. And I don't remember for sure, but I think it might have been Walking in Memphis. He's like, I logged on, and you guys were performing, and it was this song, and it just, how you have connections with songs. So it's like, it's weird, but certain music and songs can just be like so meaningful and moving to you, just the associations you make. And whatever it was about this song that we were doing, it just kind of like connected with this guy in a way that it just made him reconsider.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was prepared to do it like that night or like soon after. And I changed my mind. And I just want to let you guys know that you literally saved my life. And so like that was the point at which it's like, okay, this is meaningful to a lot of people.
Definitely, definitely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and so probably so many stories you will never hear.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just
Totally. And that, that's like a real intense one, but then there's just the people who, they're just thrilled. The woman came up to me last night at the dinner, and she's like, I just want to tell you, like, I've seen the band like 3 times. I was, military, I was in the Navy, and I was out in, out west, and I saw you guys here, and I saw you guys there, and it's just so fun. And, we went to Afghanistan in 2009 over Thanksgiving, and, understandably, especially having got there, it's so far. Like, we flew to Germany and then got on a C-17, the big, huge cargo ones, on a flight that was already going there, like, to take, like, ammunition and bombs and weaponry, like, so literally, we're in the huge holding area, back cargo area of this giant plane. It's about as big as this sanctuary. And there's just pallets like stacked up, like 15 feet high. It's nothing but bombs and bullets and ammunition. It's like, well, if this plane goes down, we definitely will be good and dead. Like, there's like no question about it. But it was like a 10-hour flight just from Germany, then just to get to, it's like so far. So, and then so far out in the desert, and these guys are like, what are you doing here? Like, you came all this way just to like perform for us? Like, I think we could go on stage and juggle socks, and it would still just mean a lot to them just because we were there.
Right.
Like, we came, and just kind of our message is like, hey, you're not forgotten about, like, people care about you, like, we're just ambassadors from like the people back home, right? So it's just a reminder, because I think it's easy when you're out there for so long to just feel like completely forgotten about by the people back home. So like, we're just kind of there as like a reminder. It's not even really about the music, it helps that the band doesn't totally suck, but it's just kind of the message that we represent.
And it's a service.
Yeah.
It's a great service. So, yeah, that's awesome. We could probably talk a lot more about that. I want to take about 10 more minutes,
Okay.
and then I thought maybe you could play us a song
Okay.
and sing, if you wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
I'll try. I've talked my voice away now.
And luckily we had Christina. She brought her guitar. So,
Yeah. Thank you, Christina.
yeah. So, all right. So we might need some Kleenex, but no. I just wanted to know if you wanted to talk about Suzanne, your partner, of 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And just because she was so important to you and probably continues to be a big part of your life.
Totally.
So, if you wouldn't mind
Well,
just letting us know about her.
Suzanne Wong, if you may or may not know her from, if you ever watched HGTV, like, let me start here. 2015, in LA, I had some friends and I that used to, occasionally we'd have these bonfires on Dock Island Beach. It's the only beach in Southern California where you can legally have bonfire, like they got these big cement fire rings, right? Like lining the beach, and it's first come, first serve, and you just go and you camp out on a fire ring, and then, you can have your fire on the beach. And so we would go and have bonfires, like, every couple of months. Like, we're due for a bonfire. And this mutual friend of ours was like, hey, I know this woman, do you mind if I invite her? Like, she's on a first date tonight, but, she said she might want to stop by, like, after they have dinner, or it might be later. And we're like, of course, whatever. So, like, later at 10:30, 11, this woman shows up, their date, and we're sitting around the campfire like in a semicircle, right? And I happened to be on the end, so we pulled up two camp chairs, and they kind of extended, and so it's me and that's her and her date, and we're just talking, and we just start talking. It was one of those things where you just meet somebody, and it's like everything you bring up and talk about just ignites, and you're just both so passionate. We were talking about music, just how great music is in general, and somehow I mentioned the Karen Carpenter, just oh, okay, Carpenter is Karen Carpenter. I love Karen Carpenter. And oh my God, I'm getting emotional already. It's not good. But, and then I mentioned that I had a motorcycle. She's like, oh, the motorcycle, there's nothing like being on the back of a motorcycle. She's like, I don't even ride myself, but I own a helmet. Just so if the opportunity ever arises, I'm ready. I can jump on the back of a motorcycle.
Suzanne said this?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a really adventurer.
No, truly, I've never met anybody whose sense of enthusiasm, exceeded my own. She just was so, full of life, to the joie de vivre, And so just the conversation was you know what I mean? We're just so, to the point where every now and then she would have to turn to her date, just put her hand on his knee, just to kind of remind him that she was still there. And it's sorry, I am still here. But she later told me, she's like, yeah, I kind of, that date was going nowhere. I knew at dinner when I said, I was like, so what kind of music do you like? And he's like, I don't really like music. She's like, wait, I mean, no music? It must be some kind of music. He's like, nah, I'm just not really into music. It's like, check please. So anyway, we just, at the end of the night, she's like, oh man, it's great talking to you, great talking to you. She's like, I do this thing once a month at my house. I have these, it's like a salon, like an artist salon. It's just invite only, and it's nothing but amazing people. I call it the creativity jam. And she's like, you should come. Bring your guitar. I play some music. It's just, it's people that do anything creative. You can do anything you want. Everybody gets 5 minutes. We start out, people bring food, and we just chill for an hour, and then once it starts, everybody gets 5 minutes. You can do anything. It's just as long as it's authentic. It's just it's not about impressing anybody. It's just share from your soul.
Yeah.
So I went, and I'm thinking we'll see. But I've heard this, I've heard this speech before, this pitch, and it's always,
It's LA.
Yeah, because it's not about impressing anybody. It's not a competition. It's always a competition. It is always a competition, especially in LA, right? And so I kind of went into it skeptical, yeah, we'll see. And it was the one time in my life where I was like, well, I'll be this is every bit as magical as she said, and everybody there was just super cool and super authentic, and just she gets up and every creativity, she kind of introduces it and just reminds everybody, look, this is about support, this is about expression, this is about authenticity. We're leave your judgments at the door. We don't do that here. This is because you can get up there. It wasn't about performing. It was if you're a writer, maybe you're working on something and you just want to hear it out loud. You want to read it out loud to see how it's kind of working in real time, in real life. Maybe you're a comedian, you're working on jokes. That's a whole process. You gotta try it and then shape it. And so it was that, she's like, you can get up here and just we'll hold space for 5 minutes. You can just vent about shit's going on in your life. You just need to talk about that's that. As long as it's authentic. So it was genuinely that, and I was super impressed. So at the end of the night, everybody's socializing, little by little, people are peeling off, party always ends up in the kitchen, that's what I always say, and it did. And pretty soon it's down to a couple of people, and then me and her and one other person, and they peeled off, and her and I still just talking, just like at the bonfire. Have so many, we're talking about art and music, and oh, are you familiar, are you into this? And if there's something, I was passionate about but didn't, she's like, oh, you would love this then. And we ended up going to the dining room table and had the computer, and she's showing me this. I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this. Are you hip to this? And then telling stories, and at some point I glance up, and she had blinds, and I could see that real dark purple like color coming through the blinds, and like when the sun is just starting to streak the sky, there's that dark, the sky's turning from black to like that dark, purple. And I was like, oh, what time is it? I'm like, oh, it's like 4:35 in the morning, something like that. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, we've been talking for hours, but it seemed like no time had come. I'm like, I gotta go. And then I was like, I'm going to see this guitar player at the hotel cafe tonight, like based on everything we just said, like you would love it, blah, blah, blah. You wanna go? Of course. So and then it just became this thing that we started going to performances. Next night she's like, I have a friend who's doing storytelling, another one who's, singer-songwriter, performing at the library downtown. So we'd go to these performances and then afterwards go get food and debrief. And that just became our ritual, our routine. And we did that for months. It wasn't even like romantic really necessarily, but we just had such a connection that eventually, she kind of wore me down.
Like every good woman.
Yeah. But yeah, and it just kind of became, I don't know, she's kind of hard to describe. Oh, but I totally forgot the point that I was going to say is that at that bonfire, she told me, she's like, oh yeah, I was the host, the on-camera host for House Hunters on HGTV.
I remember you showing me that.
Yeah, and then I remembered, I was like, oh, when I would go to Mom's house, like back in the early 2000s, like she'd always have HGTV on the TV, just on. And I was like, I remember you. Like that was like, hi, I'm Suzanne Wong. This is House, and so a lot of people who are familiar with HGTV might remember her from that. But she was also an actress and a comedian and hilarious and just amazing, just like one of the most amazing individuals I've ever met. But she was diagnosed with cancer. She had already had cancer, and we had been given 6 months to live, like 13 years prior, and then just like was a survivor, which is partly why she was like that anyway. But then when you're given a death sentence and then you survive, you're just like, oh, then you're really alive, right? This is all bonus time. I'm not even supposed to be here. It's like, she just like leaned into life so hard. So together we were just like this unstoppable, the synergy. Like, and people would always comment, they're like, you two, geez, like it's amazing. But at some point, I remember the cancer came back, and at some point she had said like, no one's ever written me a song. So like, which is crazy because I've dated so many musicians. And so I wrote her this tune, and it was one of the last things I played, like the night she passed. I'd gone out, and she was actually, she had been doing fine. It wasn't like your typical, I just have to explain it. A lot of times, like, people in that situation, like, they slowly decline, and it just gets to a point where they're just kind of hanging on, and it's just a matter of time. She was like, we were talking that day, like we are talking right now. Like, and the challenge at that point was like, for me, like how to find a balance between like, because I was her primary caretaker, but still I have a life of my own, and she knew that and felt bad, and so we had just gotten approved for an in-home caretaker that would come for like a couple hours a day or certain days of the week, just so that I could have some time to like get out and just have some life. So it was that caretaker's first day, and so she's like, get out of here, go, do some stuff. And I did have some stuff to do. And I remember I was coming home, and she's like, are you on your way home? I was like, yeah. She's like, hurry, I think I'm going.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay. And I raced home, and literally, then she's like, just leave my shit in the car, just come up now. And I ran up, and we talked for a while, and she's like, just can you play me some music and just take my mind off things. I did, and I played her, a couple songs until she was like, okay, I just need a rest. And then like an hour later, it was like something just happened, and like I saw, like I was moving her, and I saw her eyes just shift, and like I knew that was it. And then like 20 minutes later, like she was gone. It's like she knew, it was weird.
Yeah.
But so the song that I will play is the song that I did, like when she said, like, no one's ever heard me a song. So I wrote her one.
We would love to hear it.
We'll see if I can get through it. How my voice holds up with all the talking. Here we are, Suzanne. Here we are, Suzanne. Like the smell of jasmine in the night, like any soft romantic metaphor. You are a song I had to write, the kind I'm so much better for. And there ain't much difference between laughing and crying, living and dying, like where the ocean meets the land. Should there come a goodbye? It's been such a good time. I'm testifying you're the best of who I am. You live in me, Suzanne. You always will, Suzanne. Suzanne. Well, come look quick, there's a full moon rising. I'll see your eyes in every memory that I can. I'm beyond all ideas of what's good and what's bad. There's a beautiful field where we'll play another hand. I'll meet you there, Suzanne. I love you still, Suzanne.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was probably pretty hard. What a gift, though. I mean, just anytime you can express joy, grief, whatever through music, it's just, so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it lives on,
Yeah. She loved that tune. I mean, it meant so much to her.
Yeah.
So it really, it's a gift to be able to give that gift.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, so we all definitely would love if you would come back sometime and just give us a performance.
Yeah, I would love to.
Maybe some of your own music, and
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like we've talked about, I'm dealing with some vocal issues right now, and but I'm determined to try to iron them out and figure out what's going on. Because I've got too many more songs in me to not.
This next phase of your, you've conquered the music theory, so.
Well, I wouldn't say I've conquered it yet.
So
but
now you're on
I've broken
your
into
first
it.
album of songs. No.
It is exciting. It's it's kind of a new phase of. It's just like one baby step closer to feeling like a real musician, which I kind of feel is kind of that's the chant. That's what that guitar has just been like my whole life. It's like you can't escape me. Like you're gonna have to face me at some point, right? And it's like finally I was like, okay. And now we're starting to feel less like adversaries and more like friends.
Right.
It's fun.
And it's a journey,
It
It's
is.
like you have to keep going and learning new things is
It's
what
hard.
it's all about.
I'm not like a genius like my buddy Eric Levy, It's like some people have like a supercomputer chip in their brain. I've got like a hamster on a wheel up there. He's like, he's not even running fast. He's just like walking slow. I'm just like, come on, buddy, let's go. You know. But you know, I make up for it in intuition. You know?
I think so.
I'm very intuitive and instinctive. You know, got good
and a great performer. You're like,
yeah. I'm you know, it's a 7-year-old me like, you know, this is gonna kill you.
Yeah.
It's just like,
well, would you mind if we did some Q&A?
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody has a question?
You know, you said when you were at Northern and you went through that period of self-discovery and you didn't think you'd make it as a teacher, okay? I would just like to say that, I don't know how old you are, Jeff, because to me you're still 16 and I'm still 30.
I feel that way too.
Yeah, but I think your whole life you have become a great teacher. You just have a different major.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And just to add on to that real fast, I mean, so last year, both of my boys were in LA living together, and Julian has been there for 4 years, and I just really wanted them to meet him, to know him, not just one of those people like, oh yeah, I know this guy, like if your car breaks down, you can call them, he's a safe person. But more so, I just wanted I wanted them to know him, and just, so we went out for coffee, and it was just such a great conversation, and they walked away from just meeting you, just like wow, he's an amazing guy. Like, I just feel like I want to go out and conquer and do more just having met him. So.
Well, that's an honor to me, because that was Suzanne, right? And I feel like that kind of lives on through me. I'm nothing compared to Suzanne. Like, no. Suzanne was just the queen of that, you know? But like, if I can, you know, try to inspire, I'm like Suzanne light, you know? But like, if it still helps people, it's, I'm honored. So I'm so heartened to hear that. Thank you. Anybody else? Fire away, an open book.
If you're shy, you can find him after the show.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Oh.
So what is your kind of day in the life of Jeff Vezain? Like, what's your, like, how often are you traveling? How often are you in LA? When you're in LA, what's life look like? When you're traveling, what does life look like? And how do you navigate kind of the through line between those different modes of living? And also, like, how does your creative life look like keeping those fires lit that's maybe not all consuming with your other project that you get paid for?
Right. It's a great question. It's weird. I sort of feel like I have like this on-off switch. Like, I'm either on or I'm off, right? And like right now I'm on, right? It's something about this, about being on stage, it's that thing that, you know. And when I leave here, and I'm sure like my mom can attest, you know, when I'm home, I tend to just be this dark, reclusive, you know, pessimistic, self-doubting like person that I'm just like, oh God, like I suck. Like all morning I'm just like racing around, I'm like nervous as hell. I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, my voice is terrible, like nothing, you know what I mean? I don't know if I have the words to express myself, you know, but then once I step out here, right, and it's kind of that extended to my life. My whole life is, it's like, I'll be at home, the panic starts setting in about 4 days to a week before I have to travel for a gig. I start to feel that anxiety building up, and I'm like, oh, okay, gotta do it again, you know, it's like, gotta go pull off the magic trick one more time, and then I'm always up all night the night before. I'm just kind of a night owl anyway. My mom says it's because I was born at 9:22 p.m. You know, just that's when I turn on. which is true. Sometimes I'll be like exhausted at like 7, like maybe I'll just go to bed now, and then like 9 o'clock rolls around and like bing, and then until 5 in the morning. But yeah, I'm always up the whole night. I never sleep before I travel, never. When I say that, people are like, yeah, I can never sleep good either. I'm worried about what I'm like. No, I don't even attempt to sleep. Like I don't even go to bed. I'm just up all night, and then I sleep. Luckily, I crash out on a plane, right? So that's I'm like literally I brush my teeth before I leave to the airport, and then I'm good night. I get on the plane, out. But it's always like once I am packed and I'm on the bus to the airport, that's when I'm like, okay. And then weirdly I start to feel like, yeah, this is, now I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm going off to the, off to where I'm supposed to be. And then like when I get back to LA, we've got like 3 shows in a row. I'm in a weird phase now because like I said, I'm dealing with like my voice, and so like, 3 in a row is gonna be tough. But so like when I'm on the road and you're performing, I feel like I'm alive and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, yeah, this is it. But then as soon as you're off the road, and even like the most successful artists talk about this, particularly actors, like, when they're filming a movie, they're on set, they're doing, it's like, yes, like, and then as soon as the movie's done and they're back home, they're like, I'm never gonna work again. It's just like truly, it's very common. Like, and those are the people at the top level. So like usually once I'm home, I'm just a hermit. People always, Gail Landers last night was like, so you must really know all the spots in LA being a musician, and I'm like, dude, I don't leave home. Like, I'm a hermit. I stay home all the time unless I have to like go to the grocery store or surf. The only time I leave is to go surf. Or once in a while, like somebody will, like if somebody else initiates it. When I get back, my sister was like, I got tickets to Madison Cunningham, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Nice.
But I'll never do that on my own. I'm just a homebody, and I'm just kind of wrestling with my demons and my shadow and my self-sabotaging voices.
Well, and you have to like go home and plug in, I would suppose,
Yeah, I don't know, it's hard because like this whole journey, this life, it's not easy, and it's like, it looks great from the outside, but there's no structure to it, like you are literally just out there finding your way on your own, and there's no support system in place, I don't have, I only this year got health insurance for the first time since I was in college. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're just out there trying to figure it out. And it's just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, every day I wake up and like, okay, what am I doing? Right? And it's easy to, like, when you're away from people, to feel like, what do these songs matter? Like, this is just, especially in this day and age, where literally just the world is flooded with millions, billions of, like, any person with a laptop or an iPad in their bedroom is just like dragging, dropping samples, and just like, you don't even really have to be a musician to make music. You just put some stuff together, like a sonic collage, and sing over, and then just upload it to whatever I'm not even on any of those things. I can't even talk about it because I'm so unplugged from it. But the world is just awash, and so it's like everything like loses. There's a beauty to that because it's democratized the world of music, but at the same time, it's just like, I think we've all become so numb. It's become so valueless, like songs, because they're just like, what's one song in a world of just billions of songs? But I just don't look at it that way. I just choose to be like, it's not about that. I just do it because I said this Thursday morning, I look at everything as against the backdrop of death. So it's like, every time I get on a plane, it's like, please don't go down, but I still have a few songs, And it's just like, I just want them out of me for the principle of just like getting them out of me. Because if like I don't, then they just die with me, which is why dealing with my voice is so devastating. So I'm just like, come on, I gotta get these out, So I'm just doing it for me, and just, if anybody else enjoys them, or it means anything to anybody else, great. That's just
That's
bonus.
what Rick Rubin says. But
exactly.
Do it for yourself.
Yes.
And then those are the songs that will be the greatest.
Exactly.
You do it for yourself.
I'm totally a Rick Rubin.
I was gonna like come with no shoes and socks on and stuff. Rick Rubin. Anyway.
Yeah. I would love to work with him.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
He always said, like, he's like, my ultimate goal is to work with an artist that I don't know anything about them, right? And I was like, oh, maybe I can beat that guy.
Oh, man.
So, but yeah, so to I guess to answer your question, yeah, the typical day in the life is me just kind of wrestling with the voices and the darkness and trying to like overcome it and channel that into music. And you know, I feel like I've been kind of like hiding, honestly, and it's been easy to do because Lieutenant Dan is like this thing, and that's kind of what I'm known for, and it's kind of gets me by, but I've kind of let my own voice and my own creativity sort of just like fall by to the back burner. And I'm getting to that point where it's like, no, I gotta adjust the levels on that and just bring that forward. And yeah, but you know, surfing keeps me sane. So like if there's good surfing, I can get away. I like to go do that when I can. But if I'm not surfing, I mean, I still do something active every day because the athlete in me is still like alive, very alive and well, you know. But also it's just, that's survival for me. I just need it to stay sane. Like if like a week goes by, I get really busy and I just can't, like I feel it. I start to like, what is wrong with me? Oh, I haven't worked out, I haven't done anything active, and then I go do it, and then I'm like, oh, yes, I forgot. You know, I just needed that so bad. But surfing's great because it's just like all in one. You just get everything in one amazing package.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody has a question or wants to, obviously, to talk to Jeff afterwards, you'll be here.
Sure.
I just wanted to say thank you for accepting our invitation. Especially for this first one, it was kind of came out of an idea from Christina, and then Roger and I were on the programming committee, and we got to sit down and have lunch, and as we were talking, it's like, hey, you know, what about a conversation? Maybe we should do something like that at the Abbey. Yeah, and so
it was great.
It kind of came out of a conversation with you at another time, and so it made sense that you were our first guest.
Well, this was lovely, and every bit as cool as I was hoping it would be and thought it would be, and I'm honored to have kind of, led the way in this series. So
Well, it's
really
great, and you're easy to interview, and I didn't have to work too hard, so that's great.
Good.
Thank
I hope
you.
I didn't talk everybody.
I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed today's program, maybe you are somebody who has been to some of the other concerts, and like we've had sound backs here, different things at the Great Hall. There's so much going on. It's just unbelievable. But it all takes, money. And so if you are someone who thinks the arts are important, especially in your very own community, then I hope you will donate anything that you can to the Ottawa Center for the Arts. We have, you can go on our website and just take a look at what we have coming up. There's lots scheduled throughout the year and more coming all the time. And you can donate on our website, correct? Yes, okay. So, and so please, I hope you will all come back and check out more events. We're here and it's just so exciting. Yeah.
And thanks again for having me, and you were so easy to talk to. So appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Graham.
Hmm?